Okay. So I finally wrote that letter to my aunt. The one who has pancreatic cancer. One who was given 7 months to live almost a year ago and is still alive. Hopefully this won't run out before I can read it. By the way, I read this only because I was the only one who showed up. We had a women's meeting in the shelter where I was at, but sometimes there were hardly any people that showed up, anyone could show up who wanted to. And I'm close to the person who runs it, and one night it was just me and her, and then another person who wasn't part of the shelter, who was like a secondary person running it. But she had been in that shelter before, so she knew about shelter life. And they both knew my history, and I was the only one, so I got real deep with them. Because they already knew. It's just that when there were people there that I didn't know or didn't trust or whatever, I kind of stayed semi-shallow or listened to other people and didn't talk too much. But anyway, I finally wrote this. I took out a lot. I just had to type it, and it was so I shortened it, whatever, and she was, of course, happy to get it. And now that I'm back staying with my mom, I was going to see her again. I was going to see Matt, I had planned on very soon, like when she came to pick my mom up at church or whatever, for church. But I kind of got forced to because I got stuck at the library and couldn't walk and was terrified that they were going to call the emergency on me, so my mom had no way to get me, no one to call, and she called her, my aunt, so I got to see her. Hug her. Whatever. Got to hear her tell me that we all love you, Marion loves you now. Anyway. Dear Auntie, if you think that the reason, by the way, this letter, when I read it to that woman who runs that woman's meeting in the shelter, she said it gave her chills. Gave her goosebumps. That's what I apparently have the power to do to some people. Who are caring, who have depth, whatever, give them chills, give them goosebumps. That's one side. The other side just wants to fucking get laid again. Sorry to be so blunt, but anyway. And let me qualify that. Get laid for the first time ever by somebody really, really good, really, really into me, despite himself, despite maybe his better judgment. I do say he, by the way. Alright. Dear so-and-so, if you think that the reason I never contacted you in all those months after my mother had informed me of the horrible news that your body had become riddled with a very bad cancer was because I hated you or something, you couldn't be more wrong. I couldn't be sorrier for you that you have been afflicted with such a horrible disease. Her name. I felt a numbness engulf my entire body the instant my mother tearfully said to me, over the phone, of course, her name has pancreatic cancer. Maybe I'll just call her Sarah, just so I can insert the name. I shook uncontrollably. I cried for you and your family that day, Sarah, and I have been crying for all of you ever since. I cried for you, Sarah, equals I'm obviously not the monster Marion has forever made me out to be. But you have to understand that I had let all of you go. Hope, Don's mom, eventually inexplicably and callously turned on me, but back in 2009, before Hope ultimately put more nails in my coffin, she was pretty much my only friend and confidant. She would see me crying. She would see how much pain I was in because of all the traumatic shit I had recently suffered through back in Massachusetts, and she would console and comfort me, or at least try to, with phrases like, "They don't matter, Laura. Only your mom matters. Forget about all of them, Laura. They're evil." Hope would constantly, firmly tell me, for my own good, that I had to decide that only my mother mattered, and that I had to negate all the rest of you from my heart for good. I listened to Hope, Sarah, because the alternative to my listening to Hope's soothing words of wisdom and smothering down, internalizing my pain, was for me to instead be intensely feeling that pain 24/7. While I definitely did it kicking and screaming, just ask my former friend Hope, I did what I needed to do in order to survive. Equals I accepted the sad fact that I would never see any of you again, Sarah. And then over 2 years later, my mother told me that you, my former beloved-to-me aunt, whom I had once considered to be one of my best friends, had cancer. And in a single heartbeat, everything changed. And then this is in quotations, whatever you call those squiggly things. I've pretty much been in nothing but continuous pain for nearly 4 years now, Sarah. Look carefully at those before and after pictures and understand that what that abusive bastard Donald Wood played a huge role in causing to happen to my physical self was nothing compared to the irreparable damage that he, with the help of his devout Christian mother, caused to take place deep within my already severely weakened from a lifetime of my suffering through various forms and degrees of abuse insides. I love you, Sarah. I never stopped loving you. I will never not love you. But that genuine love, a love that resonates deep down to my very soul and that goes all the way back to when I was a young kid who viewed you as my second mother, I feel for you doesn't mean that I would either want to see you or could handle seeing you right now. You guys, all of you, including my own mother, don't understand. You never have understood, and you sadly never will understand. When my mother told me that you had a very bad cancer that might cause you to die, I told my mother that I honestly wished I could die in your place. I didn't wish that I could or would die of cancer, Sarah, but don't you think that's beside the point? P.S. And this is totally true. Just like in college, I had to shorten everything. This I had to shorten. I never would have sent it. I needed to send it. I needed to do something before she fucking died on me or something, before I got to say anything. P.S. This letter was 1,000,000 times longer, but I shortened said very long letter because I had been putting off contacting you for long enough. And whether or not my mother or anybody else who cares about loves you wishes to face such things, the sad fact is that you might die, and then obviously it would be too late for me to finally tell you exactly how I felt back in 2009, how I felt the instant I found out that you had cancer, and how I feel right now, all things that my mother forbade me to discuss with you at all, by the way. At least you have your faith, Sarah. I'm truly happy for you that while you are being forced to suffer through this unfair hell, you at least have, besides of course your abundance of family and friends who adore you, to give you comfort and strength, your lifelong belief in the existence of a God who loves you. The end.